today, oh yeah, you said you thought a tree was going to fall on your house. I was wondering that too, because I live around neighbors that have really, really big trees that could easily fall on my house as well. But I just hope that they're all really, really healthy. That's crazy. Did it actually fall, or does it just look like it just looks kind of scary because of all the wind? Yeah. What's up, Elijah?
The same thing happened to me. There's a giant tree right next to the window in my room, and it looks like it's about to fall.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy out there. Trees are really, really wonderful and also really, really powerful. We have no idea how big they are either until we see them on their sides. That's how I feel. When I am in the woods and I'm looking up at trees, I'm like, wow, those trees are so amazing. But you don't really notice how big they are until they're actually like lying on their sides. And you're like, oh, yeah, that's like 50 times bigger than I am. It's crazy. So our plant of the day today is one that's pretty common, and I thought that I really wanted to do kind of a more common, easier thing after our mushroom adventure, because there was a lot that I threw at you last week, and want to get back to some more like simple things so that we can talk. And I want to hear your stories, and I want to hear your ideas that we can collect together, and do this in like a more collaborative way, hopefully. So today I want to talk generally about the strawberry, because I love strawberries, and there are probably some things you don't know about strawberries. But first, I want to use our whiteboard and collect all of the things that we do know about strawberries. I'm going to pull up your make sure I can see all of you. Great. So let's see here. Who wants to talk to me about strawberries first? Okay, Liv, let's see if we can hear you. Ah! Still can't hear you. Darn. All right, keep typing in the chat and we'll go to someone else. Maybe if you hang up and call back in, it might work. Do you want to try that? You'll just miss like a few seconds. Jaden, what do you got for me?
We grow wild strawberries, and once they go in one spot, like here to here to here to here, until your entire yard is one.
Cool. Yeah. So they spread like crazy, right?
Yeah, and we had some that were like super tiny, but they were so sweet. I thought it was like candy.
Yeah.
Small and sweet, but good.
Do you think that the ones that you grow, you just call them wild strawberries?
Yeah.
I'm gonna type in the Latin name. Sorry, it's giving me a bit of a. There we go.
Yeah.
The wild strawberry. There's a few different wild strawberries. They're small and sweet. Okay, I'm gonna move on to Elijah.
So this Easter, I got a strawberry planting kit.
Oh, cool.
And also, I got basil planting kit. Cool. And some other plant. I forget what it's called. Yeah. Echinacea.
Oh, nice. Those are great starter plants.
And also, we just got strawberry delivered in the mail because we ordered food.
Oh, okay.
And I just ate some.
Nice. And what do they taste like?
Sweet.
Sweet. Cool. Who else wants to tell me a little bit about strawberries? I want to make sure I can see all of you. All right, Liv, let's see if we can hear you.
Testing.
Yep, gotcha.
Okay. I have a lot in my backyard, and mine grow really close to the ground.
Yeah. So I'm gonna call them ground covers.
Yeah, like ground covers.
Yeah. Which ground covers are like a really great category of plants that are good to have in any garden. They're a category just like trees are a category or shrubs are a category. So strawberries often are considered ground covers. That's awesome. What else we got? Any other ideas about strawberries? What's up, Jaden?
Strawberries are, what's the word? Grown like in stores. They grow way too much for one piece of land.
They grow, you mean when they're grown in farm conditions that like you think that there are too many that are grown at once?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard the word monoculture or monocrop?
No.
So what I think you might be saying is that when strawberries are grown, they like maybe a farmer has like 100 acres of land and he's growing just all strawberries in that giant piece of land. All he's growing is strawberries. Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is, I'm going to introduce a new word. So monoculture is when one species of plant is grown, or I'll say only one species of plant is grown on a huge piece of land. We'll say that. So monoculturing is, so this is something that I wanted to talk to you about strawberries today, is that this is a really important species or really important type of fruit to grow organically or to buy organically. It's important. Some of you may eat, all organic. Some of you might not eat anything that's organic. But in terms of organic fruits and vegetables, this is one that's considered really high on the list of being important to get organically because of how many pesticides farmers have to spray on their strawberry fields because of monoculturing and because of how many bugs and how many birds and how many mold diseases can also really love strawberries. So we can talk a little bit about that in this lesson, and that'll probably come up in other lessons as well.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Any other thoughts before I move into some of these things in more detail? All right. So, I want to talk, I can just kind of go down this list. So I'll talk about the plant parts, and then I'll talk about different species of strawberry, and then I'll talk about them in a garden environment, like I have, and like Liv has, and like it seems like Jaden has, and Elijah is going to have. And then I'll talk a little bit about having them in our diets and the monocultures and pesticides and important things for our health to think about when we're eating strawberries. So the first picture I'm going to show you is of some plant, let's see here. I'm going to do a botanical illustration of strawberry. I actually have two botanical illustrations for two different species, but they're very similar. We'll do this one first. So this is a picture of the different parts of the strawberry. Nod your head if you have seen a strawberry plant before. Yep, everybody knows what the strawberry plant looks like. They're super cute. They're usually only like 4 inches to 6 inches tall, sometimes a little bit taller depending on the species. The Latin name for the common garden variety species of strawberry is, I'm going to type that in here. Garden strawberry is a hybrid called Fragaria cross ananassa. And it's a cross, meaning that there are 2 different genetically compatible species that they cross to make the nice, big, healthy, hearty strawberry, sweet strawberry that we know of most often. So they grow these here, this little bottom part here where the roots come out is called the crown, like the crown you wear on your head. This is the crown of the plant. And a lot of times when you get strawberries to plant in your gardens, you're just, usually you're getting a crown or like a whole bag of crowns. Most people don't commonly grow them from seed, although they are some of them are pretty easy to grow from seed, but most of the time they just grow crowns. Baron, you have a question?
Yes. So we actually have 4 different varieties of strawberry inside of in our garden.
Cool. Do you know anything about their names or like their size? Like what's different about them?
I honestly, my mom just told me that we had them. I never have seen any of them except for one.
Okay.
Actually, so.
Yeah. So I wonder if you have 4 different varieties, I wonder if they're different species or if they are, if they're just different cultivars. So that's something we can talk about too. And I've talked about that a little bit in some other classes, but I'll try to bring down here cultivars versus species. So a cultivar is like maybe there are this one species that I'm talking about, the Fragaria cross ananassa is the common garden strawberry. There are lots of different cultivars that are all the same species, but plant breeders have grown them for specific traits, for specific things. Maybe like you could have one cultivar that is really resistant to diseases and another cultivar that has giant fruit and it's the biggest strawberries you've ever seen. And then there's another cultivar that are like the sweetest strawberries you've ever eaten. There are other cultivars even that are different colors that are like pink strawberries or white strawberries that scientists and plant breeders have grown out because they just wanted them to look different. So that's those are cultivars all under one species. And then you have species you have different species of strawberry that are all Fragaria here, that are Fragaria in that genus, but their species name is different, and that means that their genetics are different. So you might have different species or different cultivars. Gonna go back to our drawing here. I don't even know if I have a good drawing of what they look like when they're spreading. No, I don't have a good picture of that. So I'm going to show you this picture, which is a cool There you go. This is a cool depiction of what the fruits look like from flower all the way to ripe fruit. So a strawberry flower looks like this. And then after the flower is pollinated, the petals fall off, and the center of the flower here is where the fruit starts to form. So this here is your little tiny baby strawberry, which lots of you have probably seen before. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and it turns from green to white. And then the most common varieties are red, and it gets redder and redder and redder over time, and also sweeter and larger over time. And all of these on the outside are seeds, strawberry seeds. So you could grow out a ton of new strawberry plants just from all these seeds. But most of the time people don't do it that way because it's a little bit harder. So the average, I read when I was researching about our class today, I read that every strawberry has an average of 200 seeds per fruit. And something that's pretty cool, which I'll show you a different picture for, something that I learned. Elijah, you have a question?
How long does it take to grow up the strawberry and get fully ripened?
Can you, I didn't hear all of that. How long until they fully ripen?
Yeah.
Do you mean how long from when the pollination happens until when it's ripe?
No, when it first starts to grow.
Oh, so when you put a plant in the ground to when you get a ripe fruit.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of depends, but I would say, in my experience, I have planted strawberries from the crown. I've planted crown strawberries, which are kind of like, that's a plant that's already fairly fully grown. That's not grown from seed. But from putting crown strawberries in the ground to getting ripe fruit has been probably 3 months, 2 to 3 months. They can grow really fast if you grow them from the crown. You can get your first strawberries really quickly.
We only have the seeds, though.
You have seeds.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I've never grown them from seed. I would say if you're growing them from seed, depending on the variety or the cultivar of strawberry that you have, you might not have fruit until next year. Yeah. Or you could potentially have, depending on, like I said, depending on the cultivar, you might get fruit in the fall or like in September. But there are, in the cultivars, there are there are 3 different kinds. There's early fruits, which come out in like June, early in the growing season. And then there's ever-bearing varieties, which are my favorite, which start to give you ripe fruit in June, and then you can get ripe fruit, but not as many all at once, all throughout the season until like September or October sometimes, where we live. And then there's another kind that's called, I can't remember. There's a third kind that you get 3 different crops throughout the year, but they're not ever-bearing, and the early ones are only one crop in the year, but you get a ton all at once. So it kind of depends on which one you have, but you might, if you grow them from seed, you barely want to bury them at all. They only need to be buried like a 1/4 inch in the soil, so like a very, very small amount of soil over top of them. And then you want to keep them wet and make sure that they have good sunlight, and you want to be patient, because I read that it could take up to a month for the seeds to even germinate and for you to see any plant above ground. So just be patient and make sure they have good sun, and you could just get a spray bottle and spray them because they're so close to the soil surface. You don't have to drown them when they're so tiny, you know? So that's what I would do. Oh, so what I wanted to show you, this next picture, which is related to talking about from the flower to the ripe fruit, and the fact that they have an average of like 200 seeds. This picture is a picture of a bunch of weirdly shaped strawberries, and I'm sure that some of you have seen weirdly shaped strawberries. So when I was learning about things for our class today, I learned that misshapen and weirdly shaped strawberries are actually very often a result of poor pollination or incomplete pollination of the fruits. So what that means is that inside a strawberry flower, there are actually like 200 different points that can be pollinated or that need to be pollinated in order to get a fully sized, fully ripe, like normal looking fruit. And if there aren't enough bees or pollinating insects to visit every flower, then they're gonna ripen not all the way, or they're gonna ripen strangely. So this, for example, this strawberry here, all of these little seeds down at the bottom and its weird shape shows you that these seeds down here, these parts of the flower, weren't pollinated properly. They weren't pollinated at all. And that's what all of these are showing you. So more often than not, when you get a weird looking strawberry, it's because of a lack of pollination, not a disease or a pest problem. So that's something that I thought was pretty cool. And it's just another great reason why in our gardens we should have pollinator plants, like plants that are in our gardens that attract pollinating insects and bees and beneficial insects, to keep them in our gardens so that they can pollinate the things that we want to get nice ripe fruit from. Let me pull up our whiteboard. Elijah, you have a question?
There's a whole bee's nest under my.
Sorry, I can't hear you. Can you say that one more time?
There's a bee's nest under my shed.
Oh, a bee's nest under your shed.
Yeah.
Like in the ground? Ground bees?
I think they're honeybees. They are always around our house.
Oh, interesting. There are, I saw a ground bee digging a hole I went in the woods behind my house the other day, and yesterday, and right behind, when I walked out of my back fence, I watched a ground bee, a specific species that lives underground, digging a hole, and like backing sand out and then crawling back in and then digging back out and crawling in and digging back out. It was really cool. There are all sorts of different kinds of bees that pollinate besides honeybees. We're used to honeybees. Those are the ones that we are most used to. So let's see here. Oh, another kind of, so the wild strawberries that Jaden talked about in his backyard are probably the species of Fragaria virginiana. So they're much smaller. You can find them, the whole plant is smaller. The fruit is small, the plant is small. They spread by runners where that crown shoots out a new stalk, and that runner hits the ground, and then a new crown forms, and then a new crown forms, and they just pop out like that. And then we talked about the garden strawberry, the one that we're used to, that farmers generally grow, that are the Fragaria cross ananassa. My favorite kind of strawberry, well, I don't have a favorite, but the one that I like to grow the most is the woodland strawberry, which woodland strawberry, or sometimes called the alpine strawberry, they're the same species, is Fragaria Vesca. And this is one that is native in most of the country. So where all of us live, we could find this particular species growing along woodland edges, like right along forest edges. And the strawberries are bigger than the wild strawberries, but they're smaller than our garden strawberries. My favorite things to grow are the alpine or woodland strawberries that are white. And the reason that I like to grow the white ones is because they still taste really sweet and delicious and wonderful, but they birds are kind of tricked into thinking that they're not ripe yet. So birds really love the berries. They really love strawberries. They'll come down and they'll peck them, and then they'll, get all mushy and weird. But the white ones will last a little bit longer in your garden if because birds usually don't figure it out until a little bit later in the season, and you can harvest them before they get to them. Jaden, you have a question?
Yes. Our strawberries are smaller, and I'm trying to think of a wording. I think that they are the Fragaria you were talking about.
You think that the ones that you have are the woodland ones?
Yeah, maybe. I don't know though.
It's possible. They're in my experience, the woodland or alpine strawberries are commonly grown in gardens also, especially like the kind of plants that you've told me that you have in your garden. I bet it sounds to me like you might have the alpine variety rather than the wild variety. That would make sense to me. So I want to talk a little bit about their nutrition, or in the idea of making sure that we're eating organic strawberries versus regular strawberries, and just as that relates to our health a little bit. And this is probably going to be the beginning of a conversation, not the end. It's just like something that we can talk about throughout various classes in the future. But there are certain, especially like our sweetest, most popular, many of our most common sweetest fruits that are really delicious for humans are also the most delicious for other creatures. They're things that bugs and animals and different types of fungus like molds and bacteria have also realized are like really delicious. They're really high in sugar, so they're easy for lots of different creatures to consume and digest and get really great energy from, just like we do. So farmers, because farmers have been growing them in these monocultures because they're so popular, and we buy, humans want to buy so many of them in grocery stores all the time, year round. They have become kind of these like hotbeds for pests and diseases. And the solution that farmers have created have been just putting more and more pesticides and more herbicides and fungicides on them over time to try to keep growing their fruit, but without having any of the damage. So I want to show you an image, and before I show you the image, well, I'll show you the image and then you tell me whether you've heard of this before or seen anything about this before. Has anyone ever heard of the Dirty Dozen before, or heard this concept? Jaden and Liv. Okay. So there's a organization called the Environmental Working Group. And the Environmental Working Group does a bunch of research every year on foods and cosmetics, like cleaning products, things that we put on our skin, shampoo and conditioner, makeup, and like all sorts of food products. They do this research all the time to determine what chemicals are in these products and which ones of them are healthy and which ones of them might not be so healthy. which could, things that could actually make us sick over time, or things that we might actually have allergies to, or things like that. So in 2019, every year they put out another list of this dirty dozen, which is the fruits and vegetables that have the most pesticides on them, that they recommend that people avoid, or people should buy organically. Jaden, you want to make a comment or ask a question?
Yes, it's funny. All of the fruits on there are my favorite.
Yeah, I bet they are. They probably are a lot of people's favorite, and that's why farmers grow so many of them, right?
Yeah.
So humans love these things. They love strawberries and spinach and kale and apples and grapes and cherries. Like, these are things that we eat in huge quantities. And not just us, but like everybody all over our country loves to eat these things. So because of the demand, because of how much people want them, farmers have to grow them in huge quantities, because a lot of people aren't growing these things ourselves. So we could, where all of us are living, we can grow all of these things in our gardens. We can grow all of these things in our yards. If we have yards, they will all grow in our environment. But most people don't grow them, and most people, even if they do grow them, don't grow enough of them to supply them with a whole year's quantity. So we grow a ton of them, in like large pieces of land. We grow these monocultures, and pests are just like, wow, this is a feast. I'm just gonna come and I'm gonna eat as much as I possibly can. I can see nothing but strawberries for miles around. This is awesome. And that's, we've created these environments, these spaces all over the country, all over the world, where a bug can just like take over, because they have the most food. They have more food than they could possibly want. So we have, our different chemical companies and agricultural companies have continued to create pesticides to kill those things, but it doesn't always work, right? So it becomes, it's like a never-ending game that farmers and chemical companies are playing and losing. So this is part of the problem, and why we should remember this list, or maybe you can look it up online and talk to your parents about it a little bit, and we can keep talking about it. I want you to think about it, and I want you to ask me questions, and we can talk more about growing these things. And you can, if you don't have the ability to eat these things organically, it's important to make sure you wash them. So when you get them home, you can get the pesticides off of them by just washing them, running them under the water, or doing like a little bit of vinegar in water and rinsing them, is a good idea too. So that's just one thing. It's important to wash our fruits and vegetables so we get the pesticides off of them before we eat them. Does anybody have more questions? We have about a minute left, and we can keep talking about this stuff tomorrow, if we want. Jaden, you have a question?
Yeah. Well, the screen keeps going black for some reason.
It's okay, I can hear you.
Do you think one day we could talk about more mushrooms?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we'll keep talking about mushrooms. I want to talk about shiitake mushrooms next, I think. So we can do that. And Liv just asked if we can learn about cherries and kale. And I still want to do wintergreen and Juneberry, and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, we'll definitely do more mushrooms and keep learning about that stuff. Eliana, you have a question or idea?
Have you done violets yet?
Violet? No, but that's a great one.
I like violets. Can we do violets?
Definitely. We can definitely do violets. Cool. I think we're going to run out of time. Oh, Liv, maybe we can get you in.
Is there any like good things that strawberries can help you with, like headaches or?
Well, I think they're high in vitamin C. They have great mineral content, and they're actually really low in sugar by comparison to other fruits. So they're really sweet, but they're actually low in sugar for people